are now live.
Oh, awesome.
All right. We're here to launch Omni. I think most people know about Omni. It's, certainly if you've been on our Slack or in our mailing list, we've been talking about Omni for quite a while. And you've probably received emails about it. Almost a year. We were telling people back in July that it was a month away. But the time has actually come. It was supposed to be ready in late October and before Thanksgiving, and then start of November, and then before the end of the year, and then before the end of January and the end of February. But it's actually ready now. It's got all the things we wanted. It's got Kubernetes upgrades. It's got Talos upgrades. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to show a pokey video file that I made because I made it, and I'm going to subject you all to it, show off my lack of video skills, prove we're a startup. Omni from Sodero Labs deploys production-ready secure Kubernetes clusters on any hardware, no matter where the nodes are running, in a few clicks. Whether on bare metal in your data centers, at remote edge locations, or in the cloud. It even lets nodes be part of a cluster if they are not in the same location. It handles all the underlying security with integrated WireGuard, and so even works through firewalls. Omni gives a simple UI to manage, upgrade, and operate your clusters. Omni is the SaaS that makes installing and running bare metal or edge Kubernetes easier than using a cloud service. Getting started with Omni is as simple as downloading an image from your Omni account and then booting machines off it. Here we have DigitalOcean droplets set to boot off a custom image we just downloaded, and we're starting 3 droplets. As soon as a machine boots, it shows up as an unallocated machine in Omni because of the integrated WireGuard that's built into the standard Talos Linux that's distributed in the image. So here we see the machine showing up. You can see that they are in fact on the DigitalOcean platform. I'm also adding a machine from GCP and a bare metal machine. Now to create a cluster, we simply select the nodes we want to be a control plane, the DigitalOcean nodes in this case, and the bare metal node and the GCP node as workers. Click Create Cluster on your deployed Talos Linux, so all the nodes are running an immutable, hardened Linux kernel. Even SSH is removed. With Talos, all machines are managed by a gRPC API. So Omni deploys vanilla Kubernetes and gives you tools to update the operating system and Kubernetes. And it gives you insight into the operations of the machines and the detailed components of the Kubernetes systems. All authentication in Omni is integrated with your identity provider, and Omni also ties this into Kubernetes and Talos authentication, centralizing user management and control securely. This all means reduced complexity and better uptime. Talos Linux is a great foundation for Omni. It's in production use by some of the largest enterprises and is powering hundreds of thousands of cores in some clusters. We have a very active community and a great team. Omni is deployed as a SaaS, so it's super easy to get up and going. For those of you with great security requirements, such as air gapping or data sovereignty, Omni is available to run on premises. We're proud to announce today that Omni is production ready and already powering the networks of these great companies, including Ursa Major, who are literal rocket scientists. We do have support options available, including enterprise 24/7 support. So Omni, it's the tool that makes bare metal and edge Kubernetes even better and easier than the public cloud. Get a trial today. Thanks. There we go. And it does sound silly, but Omni really does make bare metal or edge easier than the public cloud. So literally, it's pretty stunning how easy it is. So one of the flaws of Omni is that it's so easy and quick to show. It's like, oh, you download this, you boot machines off it. Look, there's your edge nodes. Here's your control plane running in the cloud. You want to create a cluster? 3 clicks, you're done. And you show that to someone and say, yeah, that seems simple. Why would I pay for that? But
it almost feels contrived, right?
Yeah, if you've worked with Kubernetes, you know how much is going on in that. And that's kind of the use case that it's really designed for. We have people who, literally say, we don't want to know about Kubernetes. We just want to deploy our applications on it. And Omni is perfect for that, for bridging all the complex networks. So Omni is cool. Andrew has a cluster running around the world at the moment, I believe. Do you want to show that off?
Let me share my screen.
That's right. Omni templates. That was a big one we wanted to get done before the release. There were a few things that let me show Andrew's screen. Whoa.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Cool. So what I've done is I've reached out to some of the people that have been in attendance, have been testing out Omni prior to this, and I gave them access, gave them just enough access. They have some custom roles here where they can add machines. They can create, read, and update and delete machines. And what we've done is everybody that was invited added one machine here. So I believe some of these are like in Israel, some are like in the Netherlands. These are machines pretty much all over the world. I've added 3 of them. Let me just fix this. I've added 3 of them in Vulture in Los Angeles that will serve as the control plane. This has not been the only thing we've done. We haven't tested this at all. This is our flash mob cluster. What I'm going to do is create a cluster out of this. And so I'm going to just find the ones that I designated to be control plane nodes real quick. So that was 1, 2, 4. Yeah, that's the next one. And we're going to try to create a cluster that spans the world. So we have our 3 control planes. These are the ones that I have running in Los Angeles in Vulture, and the rest I'll just make workers. Maybe I'll save 1 or 2 to scale up to show what that looks like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a patch at the cluster level. And you can see we have some fancy autocomplete here. This is all declarative as well. Like we have a CLI where you can do all of this as well, but it's much more fun to look at this. So what I'm doing at this point is I'm actually setting for the cluster a patch that will apply to every single machine that joins. So although we've had users join machines from all over the world, they don't actually have to muck around with any patching. I'm just going to say for every machine that ever joins this cluster, let's enable kubespan. And for those of you who don't know what kubespan is, very quickly, kubespan is our way of securing communication between machines that are on disparate networks. So you could have a machine, again, one running in Israel and another one in the Netherlands, and they can speak to each other as if they were right next to each other, unbeknownst to the fact that they're actually going over a WireGuard network. So we'll save this. And the fact that it's saved means that it passed validation. I'm just going to give it a fun name. We'll call it TalosCon. Keep it shorter. And what I'll do here, maybe we can do Talos 136 and we'll do Kubernetes 1262. So at this point, I'm going to create a cluster. And what's happening under the hood here is we're using the WireGuard connection that has been established since the machines have been registered to securely submit the configuration that is generated under the hood to each one of these machines. The control plane nodes, actually, if we go over to these machines, we can actually start to see some logs. Let's just pick one arbitrarily. This is all, this one hasn't been sent anything yet. Let's see if we can find one. I need to figure out who did this, by the way. This is really cool. They set the UUID to an actual human readable name, which is pretty awesome. But we can see that these ones are already coming up and starting to set some host names. These are the host names that are generated by Talos automatically. So you could tell that the cluster is already forming to some degree. Live updates as to what's happening. We're using the Talos events under the hood to show off that Talos is currently booting, that we're reconfiguring this set of machines, that is the workers. The rebooting is most likely due to the fact that we've already installed Talos and now we're waiting for it to come back online. And you can see that it's coming back online with its new host name. So at this point, the cluster is certainly coming up, right? This is bare metal, again, spanning all over the world. So you guys are going to watch this either be a spectacular success or a failure. So let's see what happens. Just recently, we did add the ability to update Talos. So that's pretty cool. We're already running the latest and greatest version. Right now, the way that works is it will step through and upgrade each machine one by one. But over time, we're going to be building in things like being able to schedule when an upgrade happens. And later on, when we get the notion of machine sets, which are very similar to machine classes, which are very similar to server classes in Sodero Metal, and we get this notion of customizable machine sets. These are all terminology you'll get to become familiar with. What you could do, what we envision is you'll be able to set up policies for how that particular set of machines are upgraded. So for example, you have a set of workers that you know will run a bunch of stateless applications, and upgrading five of them at a time is something that you can tolerate, and you'll be able to set that for those particular nodes. Or control plane nodes, obviously, we'll probably control how those are upgraded, since we'll probably want to do those in serial. But the point is you'll be able to schedule when those happen and how those happen. You can see some of them are coming online. I don't know. I have no control over these machines, so who knows what's actually, if there's some physical things happening. But we have the control plane. The control plane is running, and at this point, we should be able to dig into.
Andrew, it may be useful just to show that even before a node is up and has joined the cluster, you can go to the Machines tab and look at its logs.
Oh yeah, you absolutely could. I just I need to match up. Let's look at this one. So we don't have any API access to this one, but we do have a WireGuard connection where we are leveraging to send logs rather than having Omni query for the logs. This thing is constantly streaming the logs over WireGuard. You can see that it's coming up. The node is just simply not ready. You can see that in kubespan, there's 7 other peers. There's a lot of transient errors that look scary within Talos, which is something that we are fixing as well in Talos 1.4. But at the moment, it is looking like it's going to come online. So at this moment, we're just waiting on one of them. And then what I can do from here is I want to actually scale this up. We have a lot more nodes that we can do. Cool.
Andrew,
let's just choose all of them. I did. I thought I was saving only a few, but let's just add those machines. We'll scale that up, and those ones are being added, and it's just all the same thing again. The configuration that might need to be generated for them is generated under the hood. So with Omni, there's no need to figure out how am I going to store my secrets. One of our goals with Omni is to secure that, encrypt that at rest, make sure that none of our engineers can get their hands on it. And the only things that you have to worry about is patches. And the only one that I've defined so far is that kubespan is enabled. So by the way, if I wanted to go in here and add another patch that's completely dynamic and reactive, I could go and update this one, and Omni will try to intelligently roll that out to the cluster. I can add new ones. I can be pretty dynamic with how I treat this cluster here. But let's go back. So we have, it looks like they're coming up slowly but surely. This is a cluster, just to remind people, that is spanning all over the world. I mean, I think this is in pretty much every continent that we have on this earth. Pretty cool stuff.
It'd be interesting to look at the scale of the different machines. I'm sure there's a bunch of Raspberry Pis and probably a bunch of data center nodes. You can look
let's see. I know that I was really surprised we only had one ARM node in this bunch. But there was one of them that had just a mass. Look at 32 cores, 64 gigs. Let's see, 2 cores, 8 gigs, 24 cores, 48 gigs. So yeah, a wide range, kind of all over the place. 128 cores. That's amazing.
Dinesh, is that you?
Yeah, right. But it's looking like this cluster is coming up, and as Steve said, it's really difficult to just show how awesome Omni is, because I mean, look at how simple. I'm not even lying. There was no practicing this. I just said
there was no dry run.
Log in. No dry run. I just said join the machines at the very least, and we'll go from there.
And Aaron's got 128 cores.
128 cores. Wow, I want that. I don't know what I'd use it for. One of the things we could do, we could upgrade Kubernetes. I mean,
this will take a long time.
Yeah.
on a cluster this big.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
something that we're also going to look at too, Steve, is how can we parallelize some of the operations that we do today, like deleting a cluster, for example. Today, it has to step through each machine to make sure that it's wiped and prepped for whatever may come next. But there's no reason why, when you delete a cluster, why not just say, okay, try to delete all of them at once, It's a pretty ungraceful thing to do, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And
Some
a few
lightweight
other things.
diagnostics.
Yeah, a few other things that
Sorry,
Omni
Steve.
does that we've talked about, but we'll just mention again, is it does create a high availability Kubernetes API endpoint. So you don't have to set that up. It integrates all your authentication amongst whatever you're authenticating against, Google or GitHub or what have you. And there's much wider options for authentication if you're running it on premises. And we will be adding more wider options to the SaaS, but right now it's currently Google or GitHub.
Yeah. So, I mean, just digging into it a tiny bit more, Steve. I don't know how much time we have left. We're
the last session, so we can go as long as we want. It's our conference.
I mean, just cool, simple things, shutting it down, rebooting it, destroying it. We can look at the config that was generated for this. This is a really difficult thing to do with Sedero Metal. In Omni, we can generate it. We can redact any information that we know is secret. Really cool stuff.
I don't know why it went back from 9 workers to 11.
Yeah, that's just catching up. It looks like this TalosCon big boy one is unknown. But for the most part, it's working. This is
pull the kube config,
14 random machines. The kube config. Yeah, good idea. Let's show that off a little bit.
Yeah, show how it integrates with the authentication. And
I'm too lazy to type that out. Let's do kubectl get those -o wide.
It is a long way from Thela. Thela, it borrows some of the UI design patterns from Thela, but there's a whole bunch of back-end machinery and functionality that's way beyond what Thela did.
Oh yeah, a ton. I mean, just look at what we just did. We used, OIDC and just the way that you authenticate to, and even with TalosCTL for that matter. If I download the Talos config here, I can go through a similar.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, Justin asks, can you set location? If you add nodes that are part of Amazon or Google or a cloud provider, Omni will pull in the availability zones and regions and cloud providers as tags. So those were already set. If you're setting it on bare metal, the answer is yes, but I don't know how to do that, but Andrew probably does.
What are you promising that I know how to do? Sorry, I can't do two things at once.
But you would know how to set a location tag on a bare metal machine.
Yeah, you can do custom tags on here. And these are things that we want to pick up automatically too over time as well.
So we do pick it up from cloud providers.
We pick up as much metadata as we can from. So, for example, if someone added something from AWS, we could actually use the metadata endpoint within AWS to figure out which region it's in, and we automatically add those labels that the platforms provide us.
Yeah.
If you wanted more customization, say for bare metal, where you may have racks or server number or whatever, that's obviously something that we can't necessarily figure out automatically, but we already have it. You can label those things today. And we'll get better about how you can actually register a machine and actually, upon registration, define what labels it might register with and all that good stuff. So yeah, both TalosCTL and kubectl access, so the Kubernetes and Talos API access, are authenticated by Omni. All of the Kubernetes API and Talos API goes through Omni so that we can authenticate it. We can restrict access and all that good stuff. not quite sure what's going on right here at the moment, but let me try again. Any questions I might be able to answer while I'm
there's a question about, is there an Azure machine in the Kubernetes around the world cluster, in which case it would be tagged?
Yeah, actually, I think that there is. I know that Taylor, who's been with us all day, definitely added one. So we could look at the cloud here. If we just do platform, Azure, there is an Azure one here. And if we just look, let's see, we have Metal, we have VMware, we have Hetzner, a lot of Metal, of course.
If you look at the Azure one, you should see the region and availability zone and stuff.
Yeah, region, Central US. You can see what instance it is. Yeah, Central US is the region of that one. Zone 0. There's the other thing that I was looking for. Zone 0, Central US. So. Oh, I'm getting an IO timeout. Maybe this machine is rebooting for some reason, or let's try another one. So notice that I'm using the internal IP address here, but I'm on my machine, and who knows where this machine is. Well, let's actually even look at one that's in Finland. I mean, for all I know, this could be running in someone's closet at the moment. I'm actually able to reach this machine through Omni. Omni has a WireGuard connection to this machine, so it can reach it on its private network over an encrypted channel. So you can imagine for Edge, and as we've heard about PowerFlex talk about, being able to reach an Edge machine, for example, when it might be back behind a customer's firewall and they don't want to expose it to the world, thanks to WireGuard, the only thing that is needed is that this machine can reach out to Omni. And there's only 2 ports that are needed, port 443, which are pretty standard. So I imagine asking your networking team to open that up is not going to be an issue. The other is a port that is dedicated to your account when it's created, and that's the WireGuard port. So the only thing is needed is this machine can reach out to the internet on 2 very specific ports, and from there, you can reach those machines from anywhere. So pretty cool stuff. And that's what we mean kind of by like, Omni, what people don't realize is that there's actually a whole lot going on under the hood, both in how we're running it, some of the security patterns that we're building into it, some of our, just everything about it has been very highly engineered to a very high degree to make it secure. And it's really hard to tell just how complex it is, because usually when you have something that crazy, you expect, oh, it takes 50 steps to get it done. But this is truly just kind of magical. So these ones are still building, but those are one-off machines that we could look at. If this is for production, obviously we'd figure that out later. But yeah, that's it.
There's a question about restarting and adding machines, which I'm not clear exactly what the question is, but maybe you understand it.
Let me see if I can see it. And sorry for the infinity mirror here. Where is this one? Sorry.
Well, it should be in the midst of the display. And the question is,
hello. Every time that we add something additional to the cluster, do we need to still restart the servers? I'm not sure I understand it entirely. You don't need to restart the servers. As long as the machine boots and connects with Omni initially, from there we take it over, basically. We're not using IPMI or anything like that. We can in the future, and we probably will, but we're not today. And we're using WireGuard and the Talos APIs to manage all of that.
Yeah, these machines were all rebooting because they were first having Talos laid down upon them. When you add a node to Omni, it does boot off a version of Talos, but then it'll reinstall Talos when it joins Omni.
Yeah, and in fact, we can go look at this big boy one. So the only thing that's happening is, as Steve said, Talos is being installed. So that is why it's rebooting.
But that's
and I imagine this is
the first time it gets added to the
bare metal machines.
Yeah.
Yep. Waiting for Kubla to do up. This is probably some networking issue or something. We'd have to dig into this, but pretty impressive considering we didn't dry run this at all.
Yeah. Jan asks, control plane nodes counting towards total nodes in Omni for pricing purposes. At the moment, that is true. That is something that we hear that some people would prefer it didn't, because a lot of people like to run small clusters, and so having 3 control plane nodes that they're being charged for, as well as maybe just 2 workers, can be not cost effective necessarily in all situations. But there's also people that have pricing is hard, right? So we have people that run many clusters, one cluster with like many very small nodes, and some people that run a cluster that has a very few very large nodes. But Omni is kind of priced at the moment based on a per node cost, because that's reflective of the work that the SaaS is doing. It's no less work to manage a small node than a large node. So at the moment, total node control plane nodes count towards total nodes, but it's something we're thinking about. And yes, Omni
and also, sorry, Steve.
I was just going to say, Omni does create a Kubernetes API endpoint that's high availability. So that's how it intercepts the authentication too.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that a little bit, Steve, that in case people missed it, is that what I announced in the roadmap is that we're going to be offering hosted control plane nodes as well. Yeah. And I imagine the pricing will be significantly, if not, it should be significantly more affordable compared to bringing your own machines, because we could spec those things out. And I think that should be a value add that Omni should bring to people. So yeah, anything else I should share here, or I can stop sharing and happy to answer more questions.
Yeah, our UX is still, like everything, going to be subject to improvement.
Yes. I mean, we got this done in less than a year, going from
nothing.
Very shortly after Talos 1.0, literally
right.
Nothing, just an idea. And it's really impressive to see how the team here on all sides, operational side, product side, engineering side especially, just whip this thing into shape, and we already have production people running it.
Yep. And Ollie, yes, Talos already supports KExec. There's some situations like on bare metal where you can't KExec, but when it can, it KExecs, so reboots are quick.
Yep, that's been in Talos for over a year now. So we try to make reboots as fast as possible. KExec is already there.
Well, thank you, BJ. We like the UX too. Room for improvement, but it is elegant looking.
Yes.
So that's Omni. It's now live in production and has all the features we wanted, and it is already in use by people depending on it for mission critical applications, and it works really nicely. Lots of improvements, mainly in performance. Like right now, if you delete a cluster, it's kind of a sequential action. When you upgrade a cluster, it's a sequential action. Things like that can be improved, but the base functionality is really good, and the security is amazing, and the team did an awesome job of building it in a short period of time with while maintaining Talos and making updates to Sidera Metal. So I'm impressed. We have a great team here and a great audience, and the community is awesome too.
Yes. Well, this is it then, huh? That was a really fun TalosCon. I think we were actually really surprised at the turnout. Maybe we shouldn't say that out loud, but honestly, like, the community has really been great. So thank you, everybody.
Well, while the community, well, at least some of them are still here, do you like the virtualness of these events? Do you want in-person events like at pre or post KubeCons, or do you prefer the virtual ones because more people can attend? They're easier in a lot of ways. We just miss that connection. I don't know if you want to throw comments in the chat about that. Everyone's just waiting.
We're already getting bug reports in the chat, at least.
Exactly.
I love it. That's good.
Better than KubeCon by far. Ooh, I'll put that one on the screen. Thanks, BJ. All right. In-person events will be good. Yes. Virtual is more accessible. Yes. I agree with both of those statements. Can we do both? Well, yeah, that's probably what we will do, is do an in-person event, but broadcast it and have some presenters virtual.
Yeah.
In-person stream it. Yeah, exactly. In person in New York with free hats and beer. Yes. Where's the party now? Well, unfortunately, much like the conference, Sedera Labs is all virtual too. So Andrew and I are the only people that are even proximately close to each other, and we're about half an hour away. Otherwise, we got to travel to the East Coast or over to Europe. Well, each different ends of Europe, or to Asia or India.
Yeah. Which
So
we're
it's a
already
virtual
planning
party.
after this event.
Yeah. Do both all the time. Yeah. At Container Days in Hamburg. Oh, that's a good one. With hats and beer. Why the name Omni, Andrew? Because naming things is hard.
Well, naming things is hard, so I almost want to skip over that question, but I will answer it to be polite. Uh, so Omni, there's, just what Omni means, right? Like our goal is to have Talos everywhere. It's omnipresent, omnipowerful, all those things, right? So I think it aligns with one of the fundamental visions with Talos, in that we want to run, like I was saying in the presentation, we want a homogeneous management experience for heterogeneous environments. So we want this to feel the same and it works the same everywhere, whether it's Raspberry Pis, a cluster that spans all across the world. Omnipresent, hopefully, because that means that it's actually selling. So yeah, that's the reason for Omni.
In-person
Yes,
SoCal
in-person
event.
SoCal.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be an easy one for us to do. We should just do a quick meetup down in LA or something.
London, yeah.
Omni makes nodes indestructible. Oh, there you go. It's an acronym. I didn't even think of that. That's awesome. Yeah, the company, are not going to KubeCon EU. Now that we've been in existence for 3 years, the price to exhibit tripled, and it wasn't cost effective for us at this point. Hopefully next year. Yeah, that's great. Appreciate all the love, everyone. I was going to say guys, but that's probably accurate, but may not be. All right. Well, I guess we will sign off. And thank you so much, Andrew. Great job. Thank you all.
Thank you,
everyone,
Steve.
Sedera.
You too.
Thank you for everyone for attending, and thank you all our community. Couldn't do it without you. Sign up for Omni, get a free trial. We should, I don't know, if you were at TalosCon,
we'll figure out some swag or something.
We'll do some extra trials, extensions, or tell us what you want. Apparently, everyone wants hats.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
See you, Steve.
Yep.